You were the one, I'll never forget, and every time they replay it, it's you announcing 9/11. You were the person who told us 9/11 is, I'll never forget it. And then when that second plane hit, you were the one talking about Columbine, you know? You were there for some of the most major moments in history. If I'm correct, you were also there when we didn't know who our president was gonna be.
In 2000.
In 2000, you remember that?
The hanging Chad.
The hanging Chad, pregnant Chad, dimple Chads, all the Chads. Remember that? Florida. But
I remember Tim on his whiteboard writing Florida, Florida, Florida.
Yeah, yes, and I was in Nashville, Tennessee with Al Gore at the time, and when they gave, was it Peter Jennings? They gave, he said, Gore's got Florida, and then they pulled it back.
Right.
Oh, that was the worst moment in history in Nashville. It was a silence throughout the whole city. And then remember when Al Gore said, I'm gonna go and concede, and he came back. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was drama. We never thought we'd see that kind of drama ever again. I digress. So anyway, but those big moments, I mean, you were the face for so many of us. Think back to that time. I mean, that was an awesome responsibility. We woke up with you telling us the impending dangers that we were in, the things were, I mean, from the good news to the bad news. Talk to us about that.
Well, it was obviously an incredible experience to be at the helm of that show for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And you do feel like you have a front row seat to history. And, I just had an incredible time because I think we were very serious on that show. We had fun. I would dress up as Peter Pan and fly across the plaza. I started to hate Halloween after a while because honestly, I was just like, oh God, I have to do this again. But, I think that I did a lot of really important interviews on that show. The situation in Columbine, where I interviewed Michael Scholes, who had lost his son Isaiah, and Craig Scott, who had lost his sister Rachel. It was an April morning, it was snowing, it was pitch dark. It was such a dramatic scene, backdrop. And then to see these two people who had just been in unspeakable grief and unimaginable pain kind of come together and share in such a raw way. It was actually very, very spiritual for me to witness it. And I was really just a facilitator to help them tell their stories. And then to do 9/11 and I've never felt such a huge responsibility to an audience in my entire career because I was panic stricken. It felt like the War of the Worlds. It felt like the world was coming to an end because you didn't know how many planes were involved. I remember during a commercial break or when someone else was doing an interview, I ran into the outside office from the studio and I called my parents and I told them to get in the basement because, the Pentagon and all these things were happening in Shanksville. And, as harrowing as that day was, what was even more harrowing, April, were the days following, where on these chain link fences all over New York, were Xerox pictures of people and their families were desperately looking for them. The fact that the hospitals were empty because there were so few people who had been injured, who were needed tending to. That, to me, talking to those families was just an experience I'll never forget. And, as I said, I've never felt such a huge responsibility to inform the public and to stay calm because I was like this the whole time underneath the desk because, and I didn't know what it was going, it was just horrible. And I can't even think about it.
But you know what? I thank you for that